Are you a fan of open world survival games? Then perhaps you have heard of Astroneer. In this video, we're taking a closer look at the game, we're looking at the pros and cons, and then asking if the game is actually worth playing. Also make sure to watch the end of the video where we grade the game. I run Game Grader here, and today we're looking at Astroneer. And Astroneer is a space survival crafting game with a high focus on terraforming and exploration. Now compared to most games in this genre, you don't just mine a vein or block when mining for minerals, instead use a tool that is a lot more powerful, and you can alter the entire ground underneath you. You can also use a tool to flatten surfaces or build platforms. Now Astroneer is out on full release for PC and on most consoles for $30. Now an early game of Astroneer, you start out with a small facility that provides basic functions like oxygen, and this oxygen is a major part of the game as well, since you cannot venture too far away from your base without it. And this actually makes for some really interesting gameplay, as you always need somewhere to get oxygen no matter where you go. And this could for instance be done by extending a long tether between you and the oxygen source. You can also get oxygen from your vehicles, and Astroneer has multiple different vehicles that you can use throughout the game to help you explore the game. And these vehicles can range anywhere between small land tractors to spaceships. Now Astroneer is very player friendly. It is not a difficult game at all. In fact, I would say it's a very easy game. And by this I mean that the mechanics are not very difficult at all. Also, there's not really that many ways to die. Now when you first start playing the game, it'll feel like there's a lot of variety in content, but the matter of fact is that the replayability of the game is actually fairly small, and you'll discover that the more you play the game. And one thing to note here is that even though space travel is a part of the game, it is fairly small. The main objective of space travel is to simply find other resources on other planets, and this is basically done by a click to move function. And I personally feel like they could have done a lot more with this feature, added more interesting game mechanics in space, allowing for more variety in content. We will get into that further later on. Now progression in Astroneer is done mainly through research and unlock. You can collect research points in various places out on the planets, and you can use these points to unlock more advanced buildings. Now the game also has a mission system. This is basically tasks telling you where to go if you want to unlock more stuff. Now the crafting and building in Astroneer is pretty simple. You build various kind of workstations, and they all serve their own purpose. So you could have a smelter that smelts ores, a printer that prints various models, and a vehicle bay that allows you to make vehicles. Now for most players, Astroneer will not have a lot of replayability. By this I mean that you will complete a full playthrough, and then you will kind of be done with the game. And this can take anywhere between 8 hours and 20 hours to complete, depending on how you progress through the game. There are of course some players that will absolutely love this game and can play it for 800 hours plus, but the majority of players will play it significantly less. If you find this video useful, make sure to boop the like button, as it really helps out the channel. Thank you. Now like most games in this genre, it is a lot more fun with friends. You can help collect resources, you can help each other out with mining, and I'd highly recommend playing it with friends. However, there are of course some cons that comes along with that. For instance, you have low FPS at longer distances. Also the connection can be very unstable sometimes and can just crash your game randomly. And of course also the various bugs where you suddenly just fall through the earth. But they're not too common, but they do happen. Now one of the best things about the game is the visuals. I personally love this kind of graphic style. The animations and visual effects are very appealing. They're very simple but very clean as well. And also the graphics ties well together with the soundtrack. The soundtrack is nice and smooth and relaxing, and it doesn't really steal away from the game at all. So the graphics and the sound is definitely a big plus in my book. Now the game doesn't really have a storyline. As mentioned earlier, it does have a mission table telling you where to go and what to do, but I wouldn't really call that a storyline, more as a guide on how to progress. So if you can't play a game without a storyline, this game is not for you. Now let's look at some pros and cons. The first pro is the graphics. I love these graphics. Very simple but yet very clean. And the same thing can be said about the art style. Also the game is focused on exploration and terraforming, and those are done very well. You can dig into anywhere you want to. You can build up massive structures as well. You can basically terraform the planet as you wish. Also there's a big variety in exploration. There are multiple different biomes and multiple different planets. So they've definitely delivered on that promise. Now some of the cons. The first thing I'm noting is the lack of replayability. I'm personally a big fan of these kind of games. I love open world survival games like this, but after the first playthrough I didn't really have that urge to keep playing or to play it again. And that's a bit disappointing. I would love to see more variety in content, and definitely also some more space exploration tied into it perhaps. I would love to see more of a storyline. So as a new player, there's a lot of things to uncover in the game. Early on there's tons to explore. The world feels vast. Now Astroneer is a great game. There's some obvious bugs, and I would be hesitant to recommend it to someone who wants to get a lot of value for their game. The average player will not get more than 20 hours of playtime out of this game. And the good thing is, however, it's a very simple game. You can pick this game up and immediately know what to do. It is not a difficult game at all. Now this can be good and bad, and that of course depends on you. Now let's grade the game, shall we? The first thing we're looking at is gameplay, and gameplay is the most important part. You can get away with basically anything as long as you have great gameplay. And here we're looking at the mechanics, the system, and does the game work as intended. And here I'm actually gonna give the game an A. The mechanics are solid, the system work, and the game definitely works as intended. The main focus of the game is terraforming and exploration, and those are both very solid, and the first playthrough will feel amazing. The next thing we're looking at is graphics, sound, and immersion. Basically you get these wow moments where the game blows you away with how beautiful it is. And here I'm gonna give Astroneer a B. I actually really like this art style. The very clean, simple look really does something for me. The music is also solid, and the no UI actually also also helps a lot with the immersion part. And the final thing we're looking at is the progression. Basically, does your effort feel meaningful? And we're also looking at the story. Now, this is where I have the most issues with the game. I feel like with this game, there's a lot of potential to make this better, specifically adding a storyline to it, or even adding more progression after you basically completed the game, and therefore adding more replayability. So in progression, I'm gonna give Astroneer a C. If you could add some more replayability in terms of progression to it, maybe even give it more of a storyline, this game could be fantastic. And therefore, the overall grade of Astroneer is a B. This is a solid game, and I would highly recommend it. Now, the game won't be for everyone. If you're a struggling college student and you only have 50 bucks to your name, I would not say this is the first game to go out and buy, since the majority of players won't play it for more than 20 hours. I would also say to get this game on sale, since 30 bucks is a bit too much for the amount of play time majority of players will get into it. The game is also very grindy. If you often turn away from games because they are grindy in terms of getting resources, then the game will also not be for you, as the grinding can be very tedious as well. And with most games in this genre as well, definitely play with friends. It is a lot more fun that way. So in conclusion, Astroneer is a perfect example of a great terraforming and exploration game. If you want a fairly easy and relaxed game, then this will also be for you. And if you're okay with the fact that there's probably less than 20 hours of playtime in it, then Astroneer is definitely worth it. If you found this video useful, make sure to boop the like button, as it really helps out the channel. Also check out the video on the screen now, as I think you really enjoyed that game review as well. Thank you for watching. Peace out.